Welcome back to Dominate Your Day. I'm Dana Williams. I want to start with something that happened just this week in one of my coaching sessions. I was preparing a leader for an upcoming team session, and she leads with high performing. She has this amazing high performing team, and they're deeply engaged, but they're constantly executing at a high level, and they still love their work. And so I asked her two questions. What's working right now and what's not working? The first answer came pretty quickly. She said the team is highly engaged, but the concern took longer to surface. She had to really think about it because the team is so engaged. But what came out was her concern about the pace of growth that the organization was going through right now, and she was worried that her team is burning out. Not because they lacked motivation, but because they were trying to do everything at once. This is really hard. I've experienced this, and especially in a high-performing team where everybody's excited and they're just getting along and everything's great. But this is something that leaders should be on the watch out for, and this is what she was feeling. And this is the kind of depletion that I want to talk about today. Most leaders, when they feel depleted, they reach for their most familiar solution. And they say, go get some more sleep or exercise more, take a long weekend, block the calendar. And sometimes that helps for a while, but then it just becomes a cycle and the depletion comes back and they hit Monday morning and it's and so they are always treating this depletion with the wrong currency. What we want to talk about today is human beings do not run on a single energy tank. We run on 4 different tanks, and they're physical, emotional, mental, and relational energy. And in one of my workshops, we talked about this, and this was one of the most favorite things that everybody really paid attention to that they hadn't been paying attention to in their managing themselves. And when you look at these different energy currencies, it's kind of realizing that each one depletes differently. Each one requires a different recovery. And then when you misdiagnose which one is running low, you can pour the right sounding solution into the wrong container and wonder why nothing's improving. So this leader and her team did not have a motivation problem. They had a focus problem. Too many loops, too many priorities, too much pressure to hold everything at once. So the depletion was mental. It was a cognitive exhaustion that comes from constant context switching with no clear window of completion. Just like, okay, it's going to happen again and again and again. And this is what I see in 80% of the teams I work with. And so in this season right now, when everybody, half of America is working on AI right now, and it just is adding another layer of this same pressure. So leaders are having to decide what should be automated, what should stay human, where's the judgment is needed, and all the things and all the decisions they're making as leaders. So here's what I did with this leader. We sat down and we looked at her mission, her vision, mission, and values that the team had put together a couple of months earlier. And then we asked one question. What does this specifically require of this team in the next 90 days to live this vision, mission, and core values? And what are we going to protect? What gets focus energy and what gets intentionally set aside for the window? And what's hard with high-performing teams is they have a hard time saying no. And so getting them to really focus on what we should not do in the next 90 days is a good way to give them a framework to do that. So this 90-day container gave them a full roadmap, and it helped them see that the work felt completable and that it wasn't going to keep going in a cycle. Think about completable as the antidote to the mental depletion that comes from open-ended, always on, never done execution. So here's how to put this in practice this week. So step 1, just do an honest four currency inventory of yourself. Just tonight, at the end of your workday, ask yourself, how is your physical, your emotional, your mental, or your relational energy? Is it full? Is it half full, or is it empty? And if you ask yourself those things and start kind of analyzing where you are, like usually on Monday nights, I am spent. And I would say that most of my Monday nights are low and mental. And so one of the things I've done is set up time on Monday afternoons to be with my friends and play Mahjong. Finding something social I can do that's relational to get me out of that mental just dredge I'm in. And so I want you to do that for yourself. Think of where you are in those four currency areas of energy. And don't judge yourself. Just give yourself an honest read. Then I want you, step 2, identify which currency is most depleted and then what has been draining it. And be specific. And then 3, choose one targeted practice to begin replenishing that specific currency. For me, it was relationship building. Don't pick 10 things to do. Just pick one thing. And then if it's mental depletion, try a 90-day focus window that makes the work feel completable. You just want to feel like you're completing something. If it's relational depletion, schedule a real conversation with someone you trust with no agenda other than genuine human connection. And then if it's emotional depletion, name what you are carrying instead of pushing through with it. Sometimes we just want to keep pushing through and just put all that stuff under the rug and not worry about it. And then it shows up in our body in different ways. And then if it's physical depletion, prioritize your recovery instead of pretending you can outrun your fatigue. So match the intervention to the actual problem. And then step 4, ask where you are on that change curve. At the beginning of the day, you might be up at the top, and then by the end of the day, you might be down in the curve, or you might be back in the very beginning of the change curve. Knowing where you are is important, and it's not where your organization is right that moment. It's about where you are so that you can manage yourself. And then when you're coaching and leading your team, being able to ask them where they are. Because it's hard to lead others through a stage if you're not sure that you've moved through there yourself as a leader. So if this episode gave you a lens for what actually is happening in your leadership right now, I want to invite you to take the next step. So I've created what's called the Authentic Imprint Assessment, and it's a way you can see kind of where you are in really managing your own authentic imprint. It's about your strengths, your core values, your mission, and your emotional recognition. And if you take this assessment we created, it's at danawilliamsco.scoreapp.com, you can see what area needs attention right now. And it only takes 3 minutes. It's free. And it just can help you lead from clarity instead of depletion. And then you're working on you and not trying to change things you can't control. And if you want the full energy economics framework that we talked about today, the 4 currencies, the audit, the practices that make it sustainable, it's all in the Internal Revolution, my book that's on Amazon. So go get the book, get the assessment, and go dominate your day.